Ma'am, there is no marriage registration record for you and Mr. Fin-Moo in the system. I clutched the pregnancy test slip and my legs went weak. 5 years ago, Fin-Moo was headhunted by a top law firm in New York with a high salary. I followed him across the ocean without hesitation. He said, "Once I get settled, I'll sort out your immigration status." But 5 years passed, and my green card was still in process. Willow Tong, his assistant who came abroad with him, had already gotten her green card through his sponsorship. Back then, I threw a fit and demanded a divorce to go back home. Fin-Moo, always calm and composed, panicked for the first time. He grabbed my hand and said, "Willow has it tough alone abroad. Helping her is the right thing to do. You're my wife. Your status will come in time. My job requires me to avoid suspicion. Please understand." So I understood. 4 or 5 whole years. My phone suddenly rang. Fin-Moo's voice was cheerful. "Willow got her immigration approved today. Let's celebrate tonight. Come home early and cook." I stared at the marriage certificate in my hand, which was nothing but a worthless piece of paper. My heart turned to ice. I was never his legal wife. No status, no security, not even a future for my unborn child. I hung up, booked an abortion, and bought the earliest flight back home. This time, I would not look back. I pushed the door open. The apartment was already loud and chaotic. Fin-Moo's colleagues from the law firm filled the living room. Someone was popping champagne, the laughter piercing. Willow Tong was surrounded in the middle, her cheeks flushed, laughing as she spoke. Fin-Moo stood right beside her, a faint smile on his lips. "Mabel's back. Perfect. We've been waiting for you. Lawyer Moo said we simply have to taste your cooking today." Willow Tong spotted me quickly and called out, her smile flawless. All eyes turned to me. Fin-Moo glanced at me, his eyebrows furrowing almost imperceptibly. He stepped over and lowered his voice. "What took you so long? Go cook." Willow officially became an American citizen today. Everyone's happy for her. I took off my coat silently and walked into the open kitchen. The noise from the living room drifted through the glass door. They talked about recent mergers, new immigration policies, making partner next year. Every word felt distant. My world, for the past 5 years, had been neatly trapped inside this few dozen square meters. As I chopped vegetables, the living room erupted in cheers for truth or dare. "Lawyer Moo, your turn. Truth or dare?" "Truth." His voice was as steady as ever. Someone dragged out the question. "Out of everyone here, who's your best partner?" My knife paused. He barely hesitated. "Willow, of course. All these years, the toughest cases, the most difficult clients, Willow was the one who worked through them with me." The living room burst into cheers. I knew it. Lawyer Moo and Willow are perfect together. They're such a well-matched pair. Talented and beautiful. Too bad Lawyer Moo married young. Otherwise, he and Willow would be. Someone lowered their voice. Honestly, I never got it. Why did Lawyer Moo end up with the one at home? I heard she's just a photographer. She doesn't even work here, just stays home all day. Compared to Willow, how did she even catch him? Not just by cooking, right? Steam from the pot stung my eyes. Perfect match, made in heaven, best partner. Every word stabbed my heart and twisted. The funniest part was, everyone thought I was Fin-Moo's wife. But our marriage certificate was fake. Crack. The bowl slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. The kitchen door opened. Fin-Moo walked in, his eyebrows knitted tightly. "What's wrong with you?" I knelt down to pick up the shards. My fingertip was cut, blood welled up. I was careless. He glanced at my hand, his voice full of impatience. "Can't you be more careful? clumsy, making a fool of me in front of my colleagues. I looked up at him. There was no concern in his eyes, only disgust. Clean this up. Hurry with the food. Everyone's hungry. The door closed behind him. He had no idea there was a 7-week-old baby in my stomach. Nor that I had just discovered my entire marriage was a lie. A joke. My life, from the moment I fell in love with him, had been one big, pathetic joke. The next day was Saturday. Finmu left early in the morning, saying he had to meet an urgent client. Naturally, Willow Tong went with him. The apartment was deathly quiet. Suddenly, my phone screen lit up with an Instagram notification. The profile picture was familiar, a candid shot of a man's back. But I recognized the watch. It was the one Finmu always wore. I tapped it open. There weren't many posts, but every single one sent chills down my spine. The earliest was from 5 years ago, shortly after Finmu and I got married. A photo of 2 hands wearing matching rings, resting on a marriage certificate, with an English caption. Can't go public yet, but what the law recognizes is forever. Thank you, my Mr. Mew. 3 months ago. He said he's processing my green card. All materials submitted. Once approved, I'll be a real New Yorker. 2 months ago, someone secretly bought me the new iPhone 17 Pro Max. Said I deserved the best. I told him no need. He said you're worth it. A comment below, is that woman still clinging to your husband? She replied, yeah, like a leech. Chased him to the dorm in college, now all the way abroad. She should take a look in the mirror. Does she even deserve him? I stood in the middle of the living room, holding my phone. March sunlight streamed in, but I felt cold all over. She was right. I was the one who chased Finmu. On freshman orientation day, I was taking photos on campus with my camera when someone stepped into the frame. White shirt, backlit. I pressed the shutter and fell in love. After that, I followed him all over campus. He was the untouchable star of the law department. I was the little tail from the art department, always holding a camera. Everyone said I wasn't good enough. But with reckless courage and passion, I became the girl by his side. The year we graduated, my photography career was just taking off. I won 2 awards, had offers from several magazines. He said he was going to New York. I packed my bags and went with him without a second thought. He held my hand, his eyes red. Mabel, I'll spend my life making it up to you. Marriage procedures abroad are complicated. Let's register first at home. After we arrived in New York, I wanted to keep photographing. But my English was poor, and I hit wall after wall. Once, I took a job, couldn't understand the client's requests, and messed it up. I came home crying to him. He frowned. You didn't even pass CET4. Why try so hard? Stop struggling. I'll support you. From then on, he transferred $2,000 to my card every month. Barely enough to get by. I wanted to go back home to visit family. He always frowned. I'm busy with a big case right now. Can't leave. I said I'd go alone. He said, what for? Wait until I'm free, and we'll go together. I waited 5 years. All those I'm busy, it's not convenient, my job requires discretion, they were never real reasons. The real reason was he never saw me as his wife. My phone vibrated. A reminder from the hospital, abortion confirmed in 3 days. 3. What Finmu didn't know was that I never truly gave up on myself in those 5 years. I kept up with my English. I never passed CET4, but I could talk to locals for 3 hours without pausing. Sometimes I even took small photography gigs online in private. He never asked what I did during the day. The day before the surgery, I got a call from an editor at a Chinese magazine I worked with before. They were doing a special feature on outstanding Chinese elites in New York. This issue's interviewee was none other than Fin Mu. The editor knew I lived in New York and had strong past work. They asked if I could be the photographer, with good pay. Somehow, I said yes. I wanted to see what would happen if I showed up in his professional circle, in front of his colleagues not as Mrs. Mu, but as a photographer. On the day of the shoot, I arrived at the law firm first. The receptionist asked my purpose. I had just shown my press pass when a familiar voice cut in. Mabel 1. What are you doing here? Willow Tong walked over quickly in high heels, looking at me as if I were something filthy. Her tone was unbridled contempt. This is a workplace. No unauthorized people allowed. I'm here for work. Her smile froze. She looked me up and down, then curled her lip. What work? Delivering food. She laughed. Mabel 1, stop being ridiculous. This is a law firm, not your kitchen. No outsiders allowed. I held out my press pass. I have an appointment with the magazine for 3 p.m. today, to interview and photograph lawyer Fin Mu. She raised an eyebrow. Which magazine was blind enough to hire you? You can't even pass CET4. I took a deep breath and called Fin Mu. He answered, impatient, what? I'm busy. I'm downstairs at the law firm. There was a 2-second pause, then footsteps. He came out, saw me, and frowned. What are you doing here? Go home. We have things to do tonight. I'm here for work. I handed him the assignment letter. He glanced at it, didn't take it, looking as if he heard a joke. What work could you possibly have? Photography. He looked at me, with the same disgust I knew so well. You haven't touched a camera in 5 years. What can you shoot? Stop embarrassing me. Go home. Before he could finish, the elevator doors opened. The magazine's chief editor arrived with the team. Lawyer Mu. Great to meet you. Oh, Miss Wan is already here. The editor turned to me. Miss Wan, we can start anytime. Would you like to check the lighting first? Fin Mu's face froze. Willow Tong stared, dumbfounded. The interview went smoothly. After the interview, we began the shoot. I lifted my camera and looked at Fin Mu through the viewfinder. This was the man I'd spent my youth loving, admiring, chasing. Now, through my lens, he was nothing more than a handsome, unfamiliar face. I took 3 sets of photos, and the chief editor nodded repeatedly. When we finished, I crouched down to change lenses. From the corner of my eye, I saw Willow Tong approaching. Miss Wan, I misunderstood earlier. I'm sorry. She smiled, then suddenly tripped and threw herself toward me. My camera flew out of my hand and slammed into the metal trash can in the corner. Crack. The lens shattered. A gash split the camera body. My mind went blank. It had been my father's. The day he died, I held that camera and cried all night. Willow Tong apologized frantically, but a flash of satisfaction flickered in her eyes. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I was so clumsy. Please don't be mad, Sister Mabel. Rage exploded in my chest. I stood up, eyes red, and raised my hand toward her face. Mabel 1. Are you insane? Fin Mu grabbed my wrist tightly and yanked me backward. He stepped in front of Willow Tong, glaring at me. Willow didn't mean it. It's just a broken camera. Is this really necessary? Look at yourself acting like a shrew. I stared at his face and suddenly couldn't speak. He was protecting her. Every drop of blood in my body turned cold. The magazine staff exchanged awkward glances. The chief editor smoothed things over, saying they would reschedule, and left with the team. I squatted down and picked up the broken camera. Fin Mu walked over and held out some cash. Take this to get it fixed. Enough already, stop making a scene. I didn't take it. The money fluttered to the floor. I stood up, looked at him, then at Willow Tong behind him, biting her lip and looking wronged. I said nothing. I turned and left. I went to the hospital. When I lay on the operating table, the cold metal made me shudder. I'm sorry, my unborn child. After the surgery, a dull pain throbbed in my lower abdomen, as if something had been torn out of me. I stood on the street, leaning against a lamppost, and waited 10 minutes for a taxi. When I got home, I fell onto the bed and drifted into a restless sleep. In the middle of the night, my phone rang. It was Fin Mu. I answered, but it was Willow Tong's voice. Sister Mabel. Lawyer Mu drank too much at the banquet. He won't leave unless you pick him up. We're at the bar. Hurry. I checked the time, 2 a.m. My stomach still hurt, and my whole body felt weak. I tried to speak, but my throat was too dry to make a sound. I hung up and lay back down. The phone rang again. I hung up. It rang again. On the third call, I got up and dressed. Every movement pulled at the pain. I guess it was habit. For 5 years, I'd been used to coming when called, to swallowing my grievances, to putting him first. This time, I take it as a final goodbye. The bar was in Brooklyn. The subway ride took an hour. I pushed the door open. Dim lights, deafening music. I looked around but didn't see Fin Mu. I called him. The call went through. Hello. Fin Mu. Where are you? The sound of rustling clothes came from the speaker. Then Willow Tong's moans. Lawyer Mu, gently. Then Fin Mu's deep, hoarse, drunken voice, okay. I stood at the bar entrance, holding the phone, listening. My stomach churned. I leaned against the wall and retched. Nothing came out. I hung up and turned to leave. Several men suddenly blocked my path. 3 drunk foreigners, their eyes roaming over me. Chinese girl. Alone. Play with us. One man with yellow teeth leaned in and reached for my face. I stepped back, hitting a wall. A hand grabbed my wrist, too strong to break free. Get off. My friend is coming. I snapped in English, but my voice shook violently. Friend. Where? They laughed and closed in. Help. I had just screamed when a hand covered my mouth. They dragged me toward an alley. I struggled wildly, my nails scratching someone's face. A slap landed across my cheek. My vision went dark, my ears ringing. Shaking, I called Fin Mu again, begging him to hear and save me. The disgusting noises on the line paused for a split second. Then the call was hung up sharply. I called again. His phone was off. My phone was kicked away. Someone pressed down on me, the smell of alcohol on their breath. Rough hands tore at my shoulder straps. Despair swallowed me whole. I closed my eyes. Just as I was about to black out, a blinding white light cut through the dark. Hey! What are you doing? Let her go, or I'll call the police. The weight on me lifted. The men cursed and ran away. The woman who saved me was middle-aged, Chinese. She asked if I wanted to call the police. I shook my head, thanked her, picked up my phone, and stumbled to my feet. By the time I got home, dawn was near. I stood in the bathroom, turned on the faucet, and stared at myself in the mirror. Busted lip, messy hair, red eyes. I opened the deepest part of my closet and pulled out the suitcase I'd already packed. On the way to the airport, my phone kept ringing. Fin Mu's name flashed again and again. I didn't answer. At the airport, I pulled out my American SIM card and threw it in the trash. Then I walked into the terminal. The announcement played. Flight to Beijing is now boarding. I stood up, lifted my suitcase, and walked step by step forward. At security, the staff asked, "Ma'am, are you alone?" I nodded. "Welcome home." I looked at the white plane outside the window and suddenly smiled. Goodbye, New York. Goodbye, Finmu. Ooh. Finmu woke up with a splitting headache. He frowned and reached for his phone. When the screen lit up, something empty twisted in his chest. No messages. Mabel 1. Never went more than 3 hours without replying. He opened their chat. The last message was from around 2 a.m. A call made from his phone by Willow Tom. Call duration, 17 seconds. And one incoming call from Mabel 1 later. He called back. The automated voice made him freeze. The number you have dialed is currently switched off. He stared at the words for a long time. Something was slowly coming back to him. The banquet last night. Willow had said she'd help him hold his liquor. Then he drunk too much. Then he thought he called someone to pick him up. And then Finmu couldn't remember. He rubbed his temples, got out of bed, and walked toward the bathroom out of habit. As he passed the living room, he caught something from the corner of his eye. He stopped and turned slowly. The spot by the entrance where Mabel 1 always kept her suitcase, it was empty. Finmu stood there. For a few seconds, his mind went completely blank. Then he started searching. Bedroom, kitchen, balcony, even the storage room. Her clothes were still there, her shoes, her cosmetics neatly arranged on the vanity. But the suitcase she treasured most was gone. He remembered that suitcase. Bought the year they came to New York, silver gray. She dragged it behind him through customs, held up for inspection for ages. She nervously tugged at his shirt and whispered, "Honey, I'm not going to be sent back, am I?" He'd said, "With me here, what are you afraid of?" Finmu stood in the empty entrance. The words felt like a boomerang, slamming straight into his heart. His phone rang. It was the firm's receptionist, her tone strange. "Lawyer Mu, your wife." Miss 1. She asked me to give you a letter." "Where is she?" "She left already. Said she was catching a flight." Finmu hung up and rushed out, not even changing his shoes. But when he reached the street, standing in the cold March wind of New York, he realized he had no idea where to chase. She'd gone home. She'd called herself Miss 1. She didn't even see him. Just left a letter. When Finmu returned to the firm, the receptionist handed him a paper envelope carefully. His hands shook as he tore it open. Inside was only one sheet of paper. A copy of the marriage registration application he had signed back then. On the original, the bright red civil affairs stamp was now just a blurry black dot on the copy. Finmu stared at that dot for a very long time, so long that the receptionist couldn't help asking, "Lawyer Mu, are you okay?" He didn't answer. He turned and walked toward his office. Passing the pantry, he heard whispers inside. "Did you hear? Lawyer Mu's wife isn't actually his wife. Their marriage certificate is fake." "No way." "Then what about Willow Tong?" "Aren't they? Willow's is probably fake too. He just sponsored her green card." "I heard." "So which one is real?" Finmu paused for a moment, then kept walking. Which one is real? He didn't know. He only knew that for the first time, he felt like a complete bastard. Liu. Finmu locked himself in his office and called Mabel 1. Switched off. Sent WeChat. Red exclamation mark. Sent an email. No reply. He slumped back in his chair and closed his eyes. His mind replayed the years like a movie. He remembered the first time he brought Mabel 1 to meet his parents. She was too nervous to speak properly, but still forced herself to serve his mother food. His mother had said afterward, "This girl is too forward. Not from a good family." He hadn't said anything, but thought, "She's forward because she likes me. What's wrong with that?" He remembered the year they came to New York. Mabel 1's English was poor. She had to gesture just to buy things at the supermarket. He'd been embarrassed and told her not to go anymore, to order online instead. She nodded obediently and never went by herself again. He remembered she wanted to keep photographing, took a job, messed it up, and came home crying. He'd said, "You didn't even pass CET4. Why try so hard?" What expression had she had then? Finmu tried desperately to remember. But all he could see was her head bowed, saying softly, "Okay." He never asked her how the job had gone wrong, how badly she'd hurt, or whether she still wanted to take photos. He only knew to transfer $2,000 to her card each month. Enough to get by. Enough to get by. Finmu suddenly laughed a laugh uglier than crying. He picked up his phone and dialed another number. "Hello, Lawyer Joe. I need legal advice." The man on the line was his college classmate, now a divorce and family lawyer back home. "Mew. Long time no see. What's up? I want to ask. If I had a marriage certificate with someone, but it was fake, what can I do to make her my legal wife?" 3 seconds of silence. "Mew, are you crazy? You're married?" "No, then who did you get a fake certificate with?" Finmu closed his eyes. "Someone I let down. Gee." It was dark when he left the firm. Finmu drove home. He passed a cafe and caught sight of cameras in the display window. Without thinking, he parked and went in. A clerk approached. "Sir, looking for something?" Finmu pointed at a silver-gray camera in the window. "How much is this one?" "This is the latest Leica M10, great for professional photographers." "Is it a gift?" Finmu nodded. The clerk wrapped it up nicely and handed it over. "Your wife will be very happy." Finmu took the bag without speaking. He remembered the camera Mabel used before the one her father left her. She'd said it was the last gift he gave her before he died. She never wanted to replace it. At the firm that day, Willow Tong had accidentally smashed it. What had he said? "It's just a broken camera." Is this really necessary? Broken camera. Finmu stood at the cafe door. March wind blew into his collar, cold enough to make him shiver. He pulled out his phone and opened Willow Tong's Instagram. He almost never looked at it. Before, he just scrolled past. But today, he tapped in. The latest post was from last night. A dim photo of bar lights, with the caption, "Someone got drunk and insisted I stay. Some people say no, but their body says yes." Finmu stared at the words. His fingers tightened until his knuckles turned white. He scrolled down. The post from 5 years ago, shortly after they arrived in New York. "Can't go public yet, but what the law recognizes is forever. Thank you, my Mr. Mew." Attached was a photo of 2 hands wearing matching rings, resting on a marriage certificate. Finmu's head felt like it had been hit hard. A buzz drowned out all sound. He remembered 5 years ago, when he just arrived in New York. Everything was unstable. Willow Tong had helped him run errands, saying she knew an agent who could get a marriage certificate quickly and cheaply. He'd said, "I have a girlfriend. I'd only do it with her." Willow Tong had said, "Your girlfriend's status is sensitive. If something goes wrong, she might never get a green card. Get a fake one with me first, just to get by. Once you're settled, you can do the real one with her. It's just paperwork. It won't affect you too." He hesitated for a moment, thinking of Mabel's eager face, of her saying, "Honey, I'll get a job once my status is sorted." And he'd nodded. Fake. Just paperwork. It won't affect anything. That's what he'd told himself. But it turned out he was the only one who thought it was fake. Finmu returned home. He pushed the door open to complete darkness. He stood in the entrance without turning on the lights. He walked to the bedroom door and pushed it open. The bed was perfectly made, blankets folded square, pillows lined up. That was Mabel Wynn's habit. She always arranged his pillow a little higher than hers. He opened the closet. Her clothes were still there, hung neatly, sorted by color. For 5 years, she always picked out his clothes for him. He didn't even know which drawer his socks were in. Finmu sat on the edge of the bed and suddenly felt exhausted. He pulled out his phone and called Mabel Wynn again. Still off. He hung up and dialed another number. Mom, it's me. His mother's voice was surprised. Why? Calling so late? What's wrong? Mom. What do you really think of Mabel? A short silence. Why are you asking this now? I want the truth. The truth is, a girl followed you all the way abroad, stayed for 5 years. What for? For your money. That little living expense you gave her each month, what's it enough for? If she really wanted money, why you? Finmu said nothing. Why? I'll say something you don't want to hear. I'm afraid you've lost that girl for good. After hanging up, Finmu sat on the bed for a very long time. 久. The next day, Finmu went to the firm. He pushed open Willow Tong's office door and slammed a stack of papers on her desk. Willow Tong looked up. Her smile froze before it fully bloomed. Lawyer Mu, what? This is your green card sponsorship revocation application. Finmu's voice was calm. Sign it. Willow Tong's face paled. Lawyer Mu, what do you mean? I finally got. Got what? Finmu cut her off. Got your green card. Or finished lying to me for 5 years? Willow Tong opened her mouth but said nothing. Finmu threw his phone down in front of her. The screen showed her Instagram page. 5 years ago, you told me the agent was reliable, that the certificate was fake, that it wouldn't affect anything. Tell me, was that certificate real or fake? Willow Tong's face went white for a second, then she recovered. Of course it was fake. How could I actually marry you? You have Mabel Wynn, don't you? Then what are all these posts about? Willow Tong glanced at the screen and smiled. Lawyer Mu, what did I post? I said what the law recognizes is forever. That was fake. The law doesn't recognize it. Did I lie? I said thank you, my mister. Mu, you sponsored my green card. Shouldn't I thank you? Finmu stared at her and suddenly realized this woman was a stranger. For 5 years, she'd worked overtime with him, attended banquets with him, gotten him through tough cases. He thought she was his best partner, the one who understood him most. But now he saw he never understood her at all. Or rather, he never tried to. Because his eyes had only ever been on someone else. The girl who'd gotten up at 2 a.m. to make him hangover soup. Who quietly left meals on his desk when he worked late. Who'd put away her own dreams and stay home for 5 years after he said, stop struggling. He thought it was all natural. He never even asked her how those 5 years had been for her. Willow Tong, Finmu pushed the papers forward. Sign. Then pack your things and leave the firm. Willow Tong's smile vanished completely. Finmu, are you insane? For Mabel Wynn. Who is she? A housewife who can't even pass CET4. Does she deserve you? Finmu said nothing. He turned and walked toward the door. At the doorway, he stopped and looked back at her. She doesn't need to deserve me. I'm the one who doesn't deserve her. 10. 3 days later, Finmu boarded a flight back home. He didn't sleep on the plane. He scrolled through photos of Mabel Wynn again and again. All the casual shots he'd taken, her chopping vegetables, reading on the sofa, asleep at her desk, sunlight on her face. When the plane landed, it was raining in Beijing. Finmu stood at the arrivals hall, looking at the crowd, and suddenly didn't know where to go. He didn't know where she lived, what number she used, how she was doing. He didn't even know if the baby in her stomach was still there. He remembered that day at the firm how pale she looked when she knelt to pick up the broken camera. Later, he found out she'd gone to the hospital alone that day. Alone. Came home alone. Lost their baby alone. Then, at r.a.m., she got a call from Willow Tong using his phone. She took the subway alone for half an hour to pick him up. On the phone, she heard Willow Tong moaning his name. He'd been too drunk to know anything. But she knew. She heard everything. Fin-Mu stood at Beijing Capital Airport's arrivals hall. Rain blew in, touching his face, cold enough to make him shiver. He dialed the number he knew by heart. Off. Still off. He stood there, watching the screen dim, brighten, dim again. People rushed past. Some dragged suitcases. Some laughed and called home. Some were hugged by waiting family, screaming in surprise. Only he stood alone, with nowhere to go. His phone suddenly rang. It was Lawyer Joe. Moo, I found the person you asked about. Fin-Mu gripped the phone. Where is she now? San Litan. A photography studio. She's been getting popular lately, shot several magazine covers. Good reviews in the industry. Want the address? Fin-Mu said, yes. He hung up, walked out of the airport, and flagged down a taxi. San Litan, please. 11. It was dark when the taxi stopped near San Litan. Following the address Lawyer Joe gave him, Fin-Mu found an old office building. The elevator stopped at the 5th floor. He stepped out. At the end of the hall was a glass door with a sign. Mabel Photography Studio. Lights were on inside. Fin-Mu stood outside the door, not entering. Through the glass, he saw Mabel in the studio, shooting a model. She wore a black shirt, hair tied up, exposing her slender neck. She held a camera, bent slightly, speaking to the model. The model shifted poses as she instructed. She pressed the shutter. The flash lit up. He had never seen that look on her face before. Focused, confident, at ease. Fin-Mu stood at the door and watched for a long time. Until Mabel finished a set, straightened up, and her gaze accidentally drifted to the entrance. She froze. Through the glass, their eyes met. Fin-Mu saw her eyes light up for a split second. Then, turned cold at once. She set down her camera, said something to the model, and walked toward the door. The glass door opened. She stood in front of him. Less than a meter apart. After 5 years, they were face to face again. Fin-Mu opened his mouth, but his throat was blocked. He couldn't say a word. Mabel looked at him, perfectly calm. Lawyer Mu, what can I do for you? Lawyer Mu. Not husband. Not Fin. Just Lawyer Mu. Fin-Mu's throat tightened. Mabel, I'm working. She cut him off. If it's personal, wait until I'm done. She turned to leave. Fin-Mu grabbed her wrist. Mabel, I'm sorry. She stopped, not turning back. I know I'm a bastard. I know I let you down. I know I never really saw you these 5 years. But I really love you. From the beginning to the end, you're the only one I've ever loved. Mabel slowly turned around and looked at him. Her gaze fell on his hand holding her wrist, then drifted up to meet his eyes. She smiled. A faint smile, thin as if separated by glass. Lawyer Mu, you love me. Yes. You've loved me for 5 years? Yes. Do you know what my favorite food is? Fin-Mu froze. Do you know what I'm most afraid of? He couldn't speak. Do you know what I did every single day at home? He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Mabel pulled her wrist free and stepped back. Fin-Mu, you don't love me. You love a person called my wife, a shadow who waited for you, cooked for you, worried about you every day. That shadow followed you to New York 5 years ago. She lived alone in a foreign country for 5 years. She was too afraid to go out because her English was bad. She was too afraid to pick up her camera because she didn't want to embarrass you. She got pregnant and didn't dare tell you. She went to the hospital alone. At 2 in the morning, she got a call and went to pick you up. In that alley, she almost. She stopped, not finishing. Finn Moo's eyes turned red. Mabel, Finn. She looked at him, her voice calm as still water. That shadow is gone. She turned and walked back into the studio. The glass door closed in front of him. Finn Moo stood there, staring at the door, for a very long time. Finn Moo didn't leave. He checked into a hotel near Sanlitun. Every morning, he bought a coffee and sat on a bench across the building, watching that glass door. Sometimes Mabel arrived early. Sometimes at noon. Occasionally she saw him when she passed, but her gaze never lingered. She looked right through him like a stranger. Finn Moo didn't dare approach. He didn't know what to say, what he could do. He just sat there, watching her come and go. Laughing with clients, heading out for shoots with her camera, coming back sweating but smiling brightly. She was thinner. And more beautiful than before. Not just her face, she was glowing, like a lamp finely lit. One day, Mabel came back from an outdoor shoot. She stopped in front of him. She looked down at his coffee cup. It was cold. He'd sat there all afternoon, not taking a single sip. How long do you plan to sit here? Finn Moo looked up at her. Until you look at me. She smiled, a little helplessly. Finn Moo, go home. There's nothing left between us. There is. He stood up. I want to make it up to you. I don't need it. I need to. Mabel looked at him, her gaze complicated. Finn Moo, do you know what hurt me most? He shook his head. It wasn't you and Willow Tong. It wasn't the fake marriage certificate. It wasn't that you ignored me, didn't care about me, didn't take me seriously. What hurt me most was I spent 5 years trying to become who you wanted me to be. Only to realize I never once asked myself who I wanted to be. She looked at him, her voice soft, like a leaf on water. Finn Moo, I know now. I love taking photos. I love waking up at 4 a.m. For sunrise. I love talking to strangers. I love walking far with just my camera. None of that has anything to do with you. So I don't need you anymore. She turned and left. Finn Moo stood there, watching her back disappear behind the glass door. He suddenly remembered 5 years ago, the afternoon she first came to take his photo. She held up that camera, pressed the shutter, sunlight behind her gilding her hair. She smiled, her eyes bright. Finn Moo, you have such a nice smile. Let me take your picture. He hadn't smiled back then. Now he wanted to, but the girl who used to smile at him was gone. 13, he didn't disturb her again. But every few days, he left a bouquet of flowers downstairs from her studio. No card. No name. Just white daisies. They had been her favorite. She said they looked clean, like a morning after rain. He didn't know if she threw them away. He only knew that after leaving them, he would stand across the street and watch the glass door for a long time. Until one day, he saw a poster on the glass. It was a photo of Mabel holding her camera, smiling brightly. Below it, Mabel photography. Solo exhibition, The World I See opening. Next Saturday, 3 p.m. venue, 798 Art Zone. Finn Moo stood across the street, staring at the poster. His heart skipped violently. On opening day, 798 was crowded. When Finn Moo arrived, the gallery was already full. Photos hung on the walls, portraits, landscapes, street snapshots. Beneath each was the time and place. The earliest ones were from 5 years ago, in New York. Fallen leaves in Central Park, sunset over the Brooklyn Bridge, an old man playing the violin in the subway. And one more. A man in a white shirt, backlit, standing on a tree-lined campus path. It was him. The day they first met. Finmu stood in front of that photo for a long time. Two people beside him were also looking, murmuring, "This shot is amazing. The light is perfect. Yeah, you can tell the photographer really loved that person." Finmu said nothing. He kept walking. The later photos span more years, more places. Terraces in Yunnan, snow-capped mountains in Tibet, fishing villages by the sea, city neon lights. In every photo, there was light. The world she saw. A world without him. At the end of the gallery was an empty wall. Only one line. To the one I once loved, and the self I finally became. Finmu stood in front of that wall and suddenly smiled. He finally understood, some things, once missed, are gone forever. He turned to leave, but saw Mabel standing not far away, looking at him. Their eyes met. She walked over and stood in front of him. "Why are you here?" "To see you." She smiled faintly, almost without warmth. "Finished?" "Yes." "Then go." Finmu looked at her and suddenly asked, "Did you like the flowers?" She hesitated. "The white daisies. I left them." She lowered her eyes and was quiet for a moment. "Yes." Finmu smiled. "For the first time in a month." "Good." He turned and walked toward the door. At the exit, he paused and looked back. She was still standing there, sunlight streaming through the window, falling on her. She was more beautiful than before. Not her face, her whole being was shining. Finmu looked at her and suddenly remembered many years ago, the first time she held up a camera to him. The sunlight had been just like this, falling on her. But back then, her eyes had held him. Now, her eyes held light. He smiled, then turned and left. Mabel stood there, watching his figure disappear outside. Someone came over and asked, "Miss Wen, who was that?" "He's handsome." She looked away and smiled. "Someone from the past." She turned and walked into the light of the next photograph. Love is not blind compromise and losing oneself, nor does it tolerate deception and neglect. For love, the he. Royen went abroad, abandoned her dreams and endured grievances, only to get a fake marriage and indifference. Fortunately, she woke up in time, regained her passion and lived for herself. It tells us that we should keep an independent personality and pursuits in a relationship, never humble ourselves for love, and know how to cut losses in time. Only by being yourself can you have a truly worthy relationship.